Urban Crag Climbing Center is a rock gym located in Dayton, Ohio, with 8,000 feet of textured and sculpted vertical terrain ranging from 28 to 56 feet. For more info, go to urbancrag.com or call 937-224-CRAG. Welcome to another edition of the 937. And this is a somber week in America, a very, very, very somber week, and that's kind of like why we're donning the hood, and certainly not donning the hood as may have been known 50 years ago or 100 years ago as a white hood, but we're donning hoodies this week.
It is a tragic week, I suppose, but for most people of color, this is kind of something that happens all the time, but we've got a couple stories that have made it into the news. One of them has made it into the national press, so that explains our hoodies for Trayvon Martin.
Yeah, this is in memory, and
who was murdered by a neighborhood watch captain who said he was in fear because he saw a young
and Trayvon walking through the neighborhood, just walking through on the sidewalk. Essentially, he was going to get some.
His parents' house, right?
Yeah, he was at. He was watching TV with his little brother, and from what I know, the little brother said, I want some Skittles." So Trayvon went to the local carryout, grabbed some Skittles and some iced tea, and headed home. And on his way home, was gunned down in the chest. 14 years old.
Right.
Basically for the crime of being black in a gated community.
Most people of color know this experience. I was pulled over twice in my neighborhood where I lived with my parents. It was mostly white neighborhood, and a black teenager there after dark is suspicious. So I was pulled over actually in my driveway once. I was pulled over around the corner from my house, and I was stopped walking my dog in the neighborhood as well and questioned. This is kind of an experience that a lot of people have. It's taken to an extreme here in these situations because people have ended up dead. Trayvon Martin case, which is in the news nationally, locally, Dayton has a similar issue. Donte Price was allegedly, according to many witnesses,
several witnesses at the Summit Square apartment complex,
murdered by a private security company that was hired by management to, I guess, secure the neighborhood. It's kind of in a secure the apartment complex. Some of the testimony that these people gave at the city commission meeting last week, these security people are walking around with big guns. They're stopping people, asking them for their IDs.
I've been ID'd before as a bicyclist late at night going through a historic district. I got pulled over coming home from the UD library, wanting to know, on a bicycle, where's your ID, the whole thing. I got pulled over once on a bicycle by an unmarked car. Guys jumped out of the car. It was like G-Men or something.
You must have had long hair.
I had long hair.
You couldn't have had this cool military look you
I had long hair at the time, and was probably appeared to be some shady East Side boy driving through the neighborhood on a bicycle, even though my bicycle was an actual adult bicycle compared to a child's BMX.
Here's just an example, though, and these are things. There are examples of young white people being harassed as well, young poor usually.
Yeah. I had a buddy who was a sound man at Canal Street, and always got, on his walk, he would always walk home to Xenia Avenue, and said without fail would be, what's your name? What are you doing out here?
So I think it's
you got an ID?
Right. This is something
nicest guy in the world.
that people of color and poor whites probably experience on a regular basis. So it's not always just about race, but when it is about race, it's big, it's widespread.
What all these things are bringing to the fore, and even though there is certainly a class in Dayton who does not want to talk about anything of any importance.
Well, that's true on a national scale as well.
Yeah, so I'm not picking on Dayton.
Yeah.
But we got issues with, number one, mass incarceration in the United States.
Race, class,
and people are getting very angry.
Issues.
Been reading a book here, folks, and I really recommend you read it. It's called Dear White America by a guy named Tim Wise. It's a white guy writing to white people about the subject of white privilege in America.
And the consequences of it for everybody else.
Yes.
And for whites as well. It's not, although there are many whites that have the awesome privilege and the opportunities, again, poor whites don't have that same scale. There are some privileges that come with that, but there are hierarchies within white privilege as well. So it hurts whites in different ways.
It hurts all
of societies.
Folks, you know.
It hurts all of society. Tim Wise is great. He's already done an essay about the Trayvon. His website, www.timwise.org. The name of the article is Trayvon Martin, White Denial and the Unacceptable Burden of Blackness in America. Again, that's at www.timwise.org. He understands the sentiment and appreciates the compassion underlying people getting together on Facebook pages and donning the hoodies and all of this, showing support. He says that perhaps we who are white should remind ourselves before we jump on either bandwagon that unfortunately we are much less like Trayvon Martin and much more like George Zimmerman. So he's asking people to really take a look.
We have race riots in Dayton in 1968, and I don't think we've ever really resolved all of those issues, and I think a lot of those issues have gotten worse. You look at the numbers since the 1980s. Someone quoted this the other night at
Maria Holt
at the teach-in we were covering. Mass incarceration. The number of people in prison in the United States, I think she said, was 350,000. And now it's up to like 2.35 million.
2.6 million, or 2.7 million, close to that.
We have the most number of incarcerated people on the face of the earth.
And disproportionately, the majority of those are black,
Latino, and poor whites.
As a result of the drug war. That's what she brought those numbers up.
The drug war goes unabated.
But the issue is not just in Dayton and unresolved issues with race. On a national scale, we need to have adult, real conversations face up. They're painful. It's uncomfortable, yes, but these are things, if we can't resolve our issues with race, we're not going to be a unified society. It's impossible. We can't go on like this with this just blaring inequality and injustice that's happening.
And militarism that's being brought into poor communities. I mean, can you imagine, if you're from Oakwood and you're watching this, or you're from any higher economic bracket neighborhood, can you imagine what it would be like to go home at night with men patrolling the sidewalks out in front of your house with machine guns?
Wouldn't happen. Would never happen. It would not be put up with.
No. And this is what's going on.
It wouldn't even be attempted, actually.
I don't know exactly what happened in the Summit Square case.
There is a video, though, apparently.
But it really does make one pause when that many people come out to witness. Many of them who did not know.
And it's definitely overkill. I mean,
he was shot
this man was shot 22 times.
Unarmed.
Yeah, I mean, in his car. He was in his car. So, any claims of self-defense, just when you hear as many witnesses as stood up at the commission meeting.
We'll wait till the facts come out.
When the video will come out, yeah, apparently so.
But it doesn't look good, and
well, we'll see what happens. Nothing is happening to the Zimmerman guy in Florida. These things aren't new.
They're not new. I grew up. Can I share an experience?
Absolutely.
I grew up in eastern Kentucky, Appalachia, and moved to Dayton just before high school, junior high, and city of Miamisburg. Growing up there, junior high through high school, I'd meet a lot of the old timers. The old time guys who you meet at the American Legion Hall, that hang around sports events and yada yada. And in conversations with them, they would openly admit that, boy, this town sure was good when back there used to be a sign on the edge of town that said, "Black man, don't let the sun go down on your head." And there was like a longing for that, as if those were the good old days.
Oh, that sentiment is still voiced these days. I was talking to my mom today, and it's shocking that in 2012 she was talking about how when she marched and fought for black civil rights in the late 60s, she never thought that 40, 50 years later that we'd be going through these same issues dealing with race in our country.
Dr. Michelle Alexander, she's a law professor
the new Jim Crow.
At Ohio State University. She's got a book called The New Jim Crow. And we need to ask ourselves in
about the
Dayton
effects of mass incarceration
and in America, the drug war has caused so many incarcerations. She says it's the new Jim Crow.
It's definitely racially.
And when you look at when the Civil Rights Bill was passed, it wasn't long after until Nixon ramped up the war on drugs and these minorities and poor started filling up the prisons. They really ramped it up in the 80s until we've got like this. It's a national embarrassment.
Well, now we've got privatized prisons which need bodies to fill those beds. So that certainly supports that.
Are our community leaders the modern day face of Jim Crow? If they are putting up with policies that inevitably end up as Jim Crow, with millions of black men, Latino men, poor white men off the voting rolls for life, assured of almost, either criminality or a minimum wage job for life. It's tore up neighborhoods. I mean, it's killed so many people. Isn't it time to freaking stop?
And if you look
it all fuels this paranoia.
Right.
We're constantly fed that, black guys are going to, there's
if this wasn't
Willie Horton.
One of the examples that shows this isn't about race, you look at drug use between whites and blacks. Whites use way more drugs, and you look at white youth. Like, I went to a couple rich kid schools. We were poor, but I went. My parents wanted to put us in good schools, so we we went to some of these schools, and it was just like, whoa, these kids were out of control. Wild. The stuff that I saw at those schools could never happen at a predominantly black school, or even just black kids having parties.
We were talking about that.
Would just be shut down.
We were at UD tonight, and I've been down in the UD ghetto.
Oh, they go insane down there.
It was like, it's like just
catching shit on fire.
Yeah, kegs in the street,
wasted.
Just open, drunkenness, partying, like mad. And if you tried to do that in the hood, the police would be on that
so fast,
so quick, shutting you down. They'd have a SWAT team, pointing machine guns at everybody. They've done that for like food stamp raids, and so this whole you can say it's tied into the drug war, which it really is. This militarization and this like scary dystopia that we've created. It really is, folks. It's time to get real.
Oh yeah.
All the basketball parties and the bread and the circuses and all that. It's just bread and circuses. Everyone sees through it. It's totally obvious. We have to get real, and it's time to change America for the better. And I think
if we can't self-reflect, we are doomed. We are doomed if we cannot do some introspection on a national scale and really have some real conversations.
Yeah, well, we can do it on a local scale.
We can do it on local,
and that's all
but it needs to happen locally everywhere, and it has to be a whole.
I think it's 3 p.m. this Friday. The SCLC is having a rally in downtown Dayton.
Courthouse Square.
3
o'clock.
We'll be down there.
To support Donte Price's family.
Yeah.
In that whole situation.
And we'll be talking to them. He was from Englewood, Ohio, and was visiting the mother of his child, and never went home.